Welcome to The Cross in the Classroom, Educating with Eternal Values, the podcast where faith and education come together. Join us every 2 weeks as we connect with the inspiring voices of Valor Christian High School, teachers, students, and leaders, sharing stories of growth, purpose, and the eternal values that guide our community. We're glad you're here.
Welcome to The Cross in the Classroom. Today, we're sitting down with Ashley Loaiza, Dean of Students at Valor Christian High School. This conversation is about what it actually looks like to walk with Jesus as a teenager, not in theory, but in real life. Ashley brings a rare perspective from mission work in Costa Rica to years of investing deeply in student leadership, discipline, and discipleship. She has walked with students through both mountaintops and valleys. She sees the questions teens are asking, the pressure they're under, and the faith tensions they are navigating every day. We talk about how faith is woven into daily life at Valor, inside the classroom, in relationships, and through moments of correction and growth, using biblical truth to shepherd students toward authentic faith, resilience, and character. This episode is for parents, educators, and anyone who wants practical wisdom on integrating faith into everyday life. If you'd like to learn more about Valor Christian High School, visit valorchristian.com. Let's get started today with Ashley Loaiza. Ashley, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Yes.
So give us a little background on you, your time here at Valor, and what you love about being here.
Yeah. Well, thank you for inviting me to this. I'm so excited for this. My background at Valor is I came to Valor in 2019, I believe. So it's my 7th year on staff here at Valor, and it's been a ride for sure. I came from the mission field, so I was on the mission field in Costa Rica before this, and before that I was a youth pastor in Castle Rock, and so I did not expect to spend 6 years in Costa Rica, but I did, and then came to Valor as a Spanish teacher. When I came on staff, it was so much fun being a Spanish teacher because I had just come off the mission field. And then I realized so much that my heart really is for discipleship and for students. And so we moved into a different position and led our student leadership for several years, and moved out of that position into the role of a dean, not really fully understanding exactly what I was doing, but a piece of that was just life situations and timing. And I have loved this position as a dean. I get to walk alongside students and really walk in that discipleship place every day. So I really love it. Yeah.
You get to pull in all of these things you're really good at, and yet in a difficult role, because the deans do a lot of really positive things, but you also get the discipline part too. Yes. So the topic for today in walking with Jesus as a teenager, this is such a great topic for you because you exemplify this in everything that you do. But talk to me about that role as a dean and how you get to encourage students to live their life for Jesus and walk with them, even in the hard times.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of different things we get to do as deans. As freshmen, students go through freshman seminar, and so we get to go teach several of those classes. One of my favorite days with that is we talk about dating and relationships, and I just say, okay, let's go from like she's cute to she's my girlfriend, and there's always some new thing every year that I don't understand. And then we get to teach on drugs and alcohol. We talk about cell phones and healthy technology. And we just get to walk alongside students in a lot of different areas. I get to teach at chapel every once in a while. And then we also just really shepherd our students. That's kind of what we call ourselves as the deans, is we're kind of the glue between a lot of different departments, but we also get to be just shepherds for our students. So when a student's kind of getting a little bit off course, it's fun for us to pull them in, like hold them real close and hold them accountable for some things and walk with them. A lot of times that opens up a lot of conversations about like, who God is and what do they believe and why are they living the way they're living, and how is that related to their beliefs. So it's a really broad way for us to really just pull in students and walk with them and things. So yeah.
Let's dig a little bit deeper, because it is in the hard times, obviously, that in the valleys we learn the most. Mm-hmm. Not on the mountaintops. You get to be in those valleys. So let's talk about what that looks like and what scripture you use, what methods you use that we can learn from as parents and educators to work with students.
Yeah, we always joke in the dean's office. I hope that my son, who's 4, one day comes to Valor and gets in trouble because the green pastures process that we have, which is, a little bit just, Psalm 23 green pastures. But that process is such a beautiful process here. It's a process where we pull kind of everything that happened, a situation that happened. It might be that a student cheated on a test, or it might be that a student was at a party drinking or something like that. But we kind of pull out everything, put it on the table with their parents present, and then we walk through, why did you do this? Where's your faith at? Is this a part of your character? Is this who you are? And we really kind of challenge the student to look deeply in the mirror and say, who do you want to be? And it's a beautiful process. Then at some point we talk about the green pastures process. We always talk about Psalm 23. So that's where the green pastures comes from. And we have them read a certain part of it. And the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leads me beside still waters. He refreshes my soul, all of these things. And then his rod and his staff, they comfort me. And so we talk about what the rod and the staff mean for a student, and how sometimes it means that it's how they anoint oil on the back of a sheep. And it's also how they pull the sheep back. That's why there's a little hook on it. So it pulls the sheep back from danger, and guide the sheep, and a lot of other things like that. And so that's our hope for our students, is really to do that with them. We want to not just pull them back from danger, but we also want to anoint them. We want to pour on blessing over top of them, and we want them to walk in the calling that God has for them. Also knowing every single student has to walk through some valleys in order to get to those mountaintops. So,
yeah. I can just envision some parents who are hearing this, like, I need to use that in my family, not for them to just get in trouble at school. We certainly don't want that for anyone, but you're right in that, a softer place to land with the deans here or at Valor, where teenagers are just going to make silly teenage mistakes. We'd love for them to not make those mistakes, but they're going to make those mistakes. So to have a soft place to land where they're being guided and learning from it, especially learning to walk with Jesus. So aside from discipline and problems, being able to, we have prayer partners here. I know there are a lot of kids who just come sit in your office because you're such an encouragement, but give us some other things and other ways that we can work with teenagers in particular, since that's what we're talking about here at Valor, in walking with Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many ways that students at Valor can learn to walk with Jesus a little bit more. I think the primary place for that at Valor, outside of their home, I would say the primary place is their home, but at Valor, I would say in each one of their teachers. Our teachers are highly trained in biblical worldview integration. We have chapel every week. Then we have life groups where life group leaders have this opportunity to go a little bit deeper with those things. We also have just every single class. And I would say teachers is kind of that primary way. Teachers talk about, how does my lesson plan, of course, come with a biblical worldview. But it's also about just the relationship that teachers have. And when we're learning as teachers what it looks like to integrate a biblical worldview, it's not just about talking about the Bible, or like, here's creation in the Bible and here's creation in science and, whatever along those lines. It's also saying, hey, there's boundaries. And when you don't turn something in on time, there has to be consequence. And there's a expression there of this is God's character. Because he cares about us, and there's consequence there, right? And then also the grace piece of that, and this is now the character of Jesus in saying, hey, we want to have some grace here and offer this to you, but you have to also accept it and walk in that. And so there's a lot of different ways that students do that. I would say also there's Bible studies. There's fifth quarter is something that our student leaders and athletics started a couple years ago that, it's a big piece of that. And I would say one of the other huge ways is through discovery. So So, so taking students on mission trips, just being in a context that's not the classroom sometimes is really powerful and good for them as well. So I would say as teachers, my encouragement to teachers is just to be at games, be present for students. You know, when they have to retake a test, use that as an opportunity to say, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? I know you were sick last week. How are you feeling? And hey, can I pray for you? And it's just this powerful way for students to connect with students and for them to hear, they hear your heart and your faith, but they also hear, I'm cared for, I'm seen, I'm loved, I'm known, and not just I'm another subject in my teacher's, checklist or to-do list of things they have to do this week. Coaches do the same thing. I think I love with coaches when that discipline piece is there, that accountability piece. Because there's coaches like I love George Gwozdecki or Mike Stanford. They, when something happens on the team, they're going to run laps or they're going to, do some things as a team to rectify some of these situations, as well as just they study the Bible as a team. They create these spaces for students to really go deeper there. We have clubs. We have a lot of different opportunities with that. We have two VPs of spiritual life with our student leadership. So I know they're just always working on different things with our new spiritual formation coordinator and chapel, and just kind of breaking down and looking at students not as just a student in a class and their GPA and, quantifying them that way, but really kind of infusing the life of the Bible in every conversation and in the ways that you pray for them, the ways that you walk with them, that type of stuff.
It's a really beautiful thing. And it's foreign to some people who don't have that in their everyday life when they come here, because just because they become a student at Valor, they might not have walked daily with Jesus with their family.
Yes.
So all of the things I'm hearing you say, maybe we can speak a little bit more to families who want more of that, of how, we can be mentors as teachers of what that looks like in your daily conversations or in your daily reading of the Bible. Mm-hmm. But how would you encourage families to start walking daily so that their students will do the same?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness. High school is such this time where students are owning their faith, not just like inheriting it, if that makes sense. And so it becomes something that they have to decide, not just what do I believe is really real, but why do I believe that what I believe is really real? I remember walking through that with my dad when I was in high school, both of my parents, but my dad and I had lots of deep philosophical conversations, and I would just ask him questions and he would ask me questions, and then I'd sit on it and think about it, and I knew it was always going to come back to an answer in the Bible. And I think, parents are in many different places, right? We're also in Highlands
Ranch. Might be the
Ranch.
Students teaching the parents in some of these cases.
Yes, there's so many. Yeah, exactly. There's so many.
Which is a beautiful thing too.
Of that. Yes, super beautiful. But I think just creating space for it to be normalized in your home sometimes is a big thing. Making dinner time, a time where we sit down and eat dinner, even if it's just once or twice a week. Hey, we're all just going to sit together and we're going to do, hey, what was your high? What was your low? A great question that I love to ask in some situations is what has been your high point of life, your low point of life, and your turning point of life. And in circles that you don't know people very well, there's some little more superficial answers, but you really get to know people really well. And then in families, it's actually gives you a lot of insight into where your student's at. And I think it's hard sometimes to move with them to know how they're growing without some of those intentional questions. So I think dinner time is such a great place for that. Ask a silly question, like if you could enlarge any animal and write it into battle, what would it be? And then have everybody laughing and then say, okay, what was one point of this week that you really felt like God was with you? And just hear what they say. I mean, just asking a lot of questions. I would say so much of discipleship at a teenage age is just asking questions, because they're trying to work it out for themselves, and then just modeling that. I always tell teenagers a great place to start reading the Bible is Proverbs and Psalms, because you could read one proverb a day or 5 Psalms a day or both, and you get through the chapters in a month. So 5 Psalms a day or 1 proverb a day. It's actually something I had a mentor challenge me to do when I was a senior in high school, and have done it ever since. And even if it's just that for a few months, like get to know that part of the Bible, and then go to the Gospels maybe. Maybe look at the letters, maybe look at Genesis, but maybe reading as a family something, or participating in an Advent devotional, if it's December, or maybe in if it's Easter's coming up. So, there's Lent that's going to be happening. But whatever that looks like for your family, and then just going to church together, I think, is such an important thing. It's just a thing that you can make a routine thing, but it's also something that I've heard so many of our students do by themselves. They go to church by themselves, or they go with a teammate or something like that. So
find a friend and just go and not wait for the whole family to go.
Yeah.
Which would be great too. But.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Teenage years, and we talked about this when we started, but they're just so volatile, right? It's probably a good word. They're hard. They're pressured by many things, grades, friends, peer pressure, all of that. How do you see students best fitting the Bible and their daily walk in with all of the demands that they have? Mm-hmm. Where have you seen that most successful, and how do you encourage that when you see a lack of it?
Mm-hmm. A conversation that I have with a lot of students, or that I have had with a lot of students this year particularly, is when they say, I don't have time. I have them open up their phone and look at their screen time.
They hate that. Yes.
And then I have them do all the math to realize how many weeks or months a year do you spend on your phone? Mm-hmm. And how much of that is on your Bible app? Even something like that. And I think that it's really complicated, and I get that. I think most of our students have more than a 5-minute drive to school. And one of the things that I encourage them with a lot is an app that a mentor gave to me, which is called Lectio 365. And they have just meditations, and it's prayers, and it kind of walks you through studying a passage in the Bible, but it does it audibly. You can just throw it on in your car on the way to school, listen to it. You can pray while it's going. I always encourage them, if you can take, I think it's about 7 or 8 minutes in the morning before you even get out of bed, set your alarm 7 or 8 minutes early, and then throw it on next to your pillow and just have that moment before your feet even touch the ground. It's beautiful, because then you start your day with an intention to invite the Holy Spirit into everything that you do. There's other students, I love this. There's a whole slew of, I think it's junior girls who meet here most mornings about 30 minutes before school starts, and they all sit in their own cars. They get good parking spots, so that's a good, wise way to do it.
May as well get there early. Yeah.
They all sit in their own cars, and they spend time with the Lord, but they keep each other accountable to doing that. Another senior girl right now, at one point we were emailing each other every day, here's what I learned from Proverbs 1 today. Here's what I learned from Proverbs 2. And if one of the two of us didn't do it, so having a friend who's really keeping you accountable for that as well. I think there's so many demands of life, but actually taking a step back, especially when you have some time and space, I'd encourage all students to just take a step back and say, what do I want my life to be about? And is my time in alignment? How I'm spending my time, is that in alignment with what I want my life to be about? And if you want your life to reflect the heart of God, then is your time in alignment with that? And are you spending time in the Word? Are you spending time journaling, praying, inviting God into decisions that you're making, into friendships, into feelings that you're having? Into big decisions on colleges, or whether or not to be involved in the musical, or whether or not to to pursue this D1 sport in college. Are those decisions that you're just trying to walk all of the steps that the world tells you to walk, or are they decisions that you're inviting the Lord into? And I think there's so much shepherding that He wants to do with every single heart. And it's so much easier if you just invite Him into it rather than make Him force you down, a different road, which He doesn't force you, but it makes life a lot easier. So
and it's a practice. It's a routine. I remember in my first semester teaching, and we would pray in class, and I asked a student to pray, and the student said, I've never prayed out loud. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of an awakening to me that we have students who have not prayed aloud. Mm-hmm. But what I told him, and what I continually tell students, is it's a relationship.
Yeah.
you got to do it to feel comfortable with it.
Yes.
Right? You have to lift weights to get stronger.
Yes.
So let's feed that relationship, and that's totally fine, and to not be embarrassed about that.
Yeah.
Or starting that walk.
Yeah. Well, and even like one thing I talk about with students a lot, my favorite book is called The Holy Wild by Mark Buchanan. And it's basically just goes through a lot of different aspects of the character of God through stories. And I love it. It's just the imagery of it and everything like that. But his whole point is you cannot rest in the character of God until you really know him and you can trust him.
Yeah.
And so a piece of this relationship is like, I can't actually have a relationship with anybody that I don't know. And actually, I can't lean on that person until I trust them. And so actually just getting to know, like, what does it mean that God has wrath? Ugh. What does it mean that God keeps me accountable? What does it mean that God has grace? Like, do I really understand the full extent of what grace is? And just understanding the personality of God even is a great way to go too, just so that they can understand as they read the Bible, who is speaking to me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What great advice all around. Thank you. What's your prayer for Valor, for the students here, for the teachers, for the community?
My prayer for Valor is I want our students to know Jesus. I think my life's purpose is to know God and to make him known. I think a lot of our students feel very unseen with different challenges that go on in their lives. I always think this, everybody's wearing a mask and they're presenting what they want to present on the outside, but on the inside, they're all different. But they look around and they see all the masks and they think everyone else is the same person on the outside as they are on the inside. And I think my prayer for Valor is for us to have authenticity. It's for us to have relationship that's real. It's why I'm so adamant about this cell phone thing this year. I know a lot of students are like, oh, the cell phone thing. But
it's a whole other podcast. Go back and listen to that one if
Yes.
you haven't, by the way, because we know you're very involved in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, I think my prayer is just for students to feel known and seen and loved and to think of others before themselves. There's a lot of bullying and things like that happens. And I know it's more about just like me thinking about myself than thinking about the person that might be hurt by it. I want our students to know the Lord, though, above all of that, because I feel like all those issues just come to the surface when you know the Lord and are just walking with him. Yeah. He does make you the best version of yourself. I always say, I feel like each student is a masterpiece. And that God's this sculptor and that he's just kind of chipping away all the pieces that are not of him. But you have to let him. You have to give him that space to do that, right? And we're all a masterpiece in the waiting, and we're on the process. And so I just want to see them see that in each other through their knowledge of the Lord.
It's a great prayer. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on The Cross in the Classroom, educating with eternal values. We hope today's conversation inspired and encouraged you. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and stay connected with the Valor Christian High School community. Keep living out faith, learning with purpose, and growing in grace. Until next time.